So here's part one of a project series. I always start out with a design concept for my clients. From there, I get some rough guidelines and measurements of what it is I'm trying to do. Because typically what happens during the project is things have a way of adjusting themselves as they're coming together. So nothing is easy when building a project. But the more you do this, the more you learn, the easier it gets. So right here, I'm measuring. Now, even though it might be sold as 8 inches wide, it's typically anywhere from 7 1/4 to 7 3/4. So I always have to make adjustments to my original plans to make sure that I'm getting the cuts that I need from the lumber that I have. Alright, well, contrary to popular belief, it's my joiner planer. And even though it might look flat and square when you get it from the lumberyard or big box store, it's actually not. That's why we call it rough lumber. So when I start a project, I have to make sure my pieces are flat and square. Now with long pieces like this piece of lumber over here, it's very difficult to joint a nice flat edge, which is why I had to use my track saw to get as flat and square an edge as possible. Once I'm done with that, I bring it over here to the table saw. I get a parallel on the other side so I can get straight cuts. Now, typically when I do this before the project starts, you want to measure the moisture content. Basically what that tells you is how much water is in that wood. So there's typically an acceptable number for the region that you work in. Why this is kind of a big deal is if it's too wet, it'll do very wonky things. When you're cutting it, it'll move when you're trying to assemble it, and it won't behave the way you want. In order to get a clean cut, you have to keep the board flat on the table and flat or parallel against the fence. After we cut the boards to width, then we have to let them breathe for a little bit.